Also, something we're not looking for is 2 practices that the media was at and 2 different style of reports that Drake Maye isn't very good. The first was about interceptions. The second, we hear he's inaccurate. Is Drake Maye off to a worse start than you would have hoped and expected?
Well, they'll tell you that in the days that we haven't been there, that he has been good. And there have been multiple reports suggesting that. When we have seen him, however, it has not looked very good. And I'm not remotely panicked about it. I think we went through this last year. Granted, he was a rookie, but he's learning a new offense, and there's the process to this. And I think you can see as he's trying to think too much and not playing fast. And I think that eventually, and we saw the light go on from last year, eventually that's what you're hoping for and what you would expect from the number 3 overall pick, that eventually the light will go on and he'll start to play and his natural abilities will show through.
Mike, just remind me, are you a kind of a true believer in him in the sense that, what do you think his ceiling is? I mean, a lot of people compare him to Josh Allen. Josh made it to the playoffs in his second year, winning 10 games. I see him as a special talented player. That doesn't mean it's going to turn out to be, he's going to be a great player, but he's got special traits, in my opinion. What is your thoughts on Drake Maye? What is his ceiling when you think about him?
Yeah, I mean, I think his physical gifts. First of all, I think it's unfair to compare him to Josh because Josh is 240-ish pounds of. It can be brute force. Josh as a runner is more like Cam Newton than anybody since Cam Newton. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And Drake's not that. He's 225. He might be 230 now, but it's not. He's just not built the same way. So he has the running ability, but it's not to be the guy that's going to drop shoulders and do the quarterback powers over and over again. But I do believe that his ceiling, if he reaches his ceiling from his physical talent, that he can be easily a top 10 quarterback. And, then you start talking about the mental part and can he work his way into, that top 5, the guy who makes plays when he has to make plays in those big moments. And, he had a couple last year. He also had several that didn't go that way. And, it's part of the process of being a rookie. But I think there is a high floor and there could be a fantastic ceiling.
So, Mike, it seems like there's reasonable to very varied amounts of concern about Drake's struggles early on. The offensive line as it tries to come together and form a new Voltron. The wide receiver room for a number of reasons. But one area that I don't have a lot of concern with, in fact, I'm confident in, is the running back room. And I think that they've improved. They were pretty good last year on a bad team, and now they've improved drastically by adding Travion Henderson, or so you'd think. Would it surprise you then if, as we talk so much about Drake and the passing attack, if the Patriots of 2025 came out and were more of a run-centric team a la 2021 as they slow-played max development?
Yeah, I could totally see that. I think I think it's easier for offensive linemen to run block than it is to pass block, be aggressive, go forward, as opposed to, take that hitch step back and try to compete against some unbelievable athletes on the other side of the ball at times. So Josh has proven that he will adapt to the situation, and it's clear that if, Ramondre gets up to speed, and he looked pretty good, he didn't get to work in with team, but we did see him. He is back, after the passing of his father, and he looks like he's in good condition. So that was, I thought, a positive. And between that, Gibson, who was, I thought in the second half of the season was their best running back, and now adding someone like Henderson, who again just has a different gear. It's so easy for him to get to top speed. They definitely have the capabilities to be a good running football team.
Mike Giardi, Boston Sports Journal, with us here on WEEI Afternoons. Mike, I know you've been around a lot of NFL stories and scandals and situations with your time at NFL Network. So this Stefon Diggs thing that popped up this week, this video on a boat, on social media with a substance that he may or may not be passing out. What do you make of it? Is he on thin ice? Where do you think this is right now, and where could it go?
I believe there's frustration because of not just that. I think that's just a piece of the puzzle. I think they'd like him around more. And I think Mike kind of made it clear, and you can't say we want you here because it is voluntary.
Yep.
But I feel like there was an understanding there that he was going to be. I mean, he has a clause in his contract if he shows up to 27 to the 32 OTAs, he gets an extra $200,000, which whatever, like he's got $18.5 million guaranteed coming to him, so he might not care about that. But they put it in there thinking probably, hey, like we'll give you a little carrot, you'll be here, right? Yeah, I'll be here, and he's not. He's not been here. I mean, Kayshon Boutte told us straight up, so we haven't seen him the 2 times, but Boutte's like, yeah, he hasn't been here very much, So everybody talked about the idea that he would be a leader, and why I've told you, in the past when I dealt with him in Buffalo and covering those teams, that he was good to the young receivers. He's not that guy. Like he'll talk to them, he'll help them, but like. Who's going to be a bigger leader in that room? It's going to be Mac Hollins. And Mac Hollins ain't half the player that Stefon Diggs is, right? Like, you're not expecting Mac Hollins to catch 80 passes, but you might be expecting Stefon Diggs to. So I think there's just a little bit of frustration there. And now, hey, here we are. It's not even the season, really. We haven't officially started yet, and I already am dealing with you being a headache. Like, you can't, again, people will tell you can't prove anything. No, you can't. No one's going to tell you what was in the bag. We can all speculate, and there's plenty of people that have done the deep dives on it. But, like, it's off-putting. We gave you a lot of money, dude, like, when no one else would. And already you put us in a little bit of a spot.
It's interesting, Mike, because, look, you can look at this and go, okay, it's one little thing. It's a thing that you saw, okay, like, it's no big deal. But I don't know, people that have been in football for a long time and know when a new coaching staff is coming in, what they're trying to do, when you have the profile of the wide receiver room like you have, that the Patriots have, it's kind of a bigger deal. Don't you think? Do you feel that way? Don't you feel like, even though it feels like it can be in some situations not a big deal, but in this situation on this team currently, it feels kind of like a big deal and undermines what the head coach is trying to do, right?
Some people might view this as like being sanctimonious, and I'm not like, Ted, like you lived it. Mike Vrabel lived it. Like you guys operate differently than most of us do. You made more money than most of us do. Like your parties are a little different than Joe Schmo's, right? Like, so I'm not naive to any of this stuff, but Mike is trying to establish something, and while having, as he said, you still got to have good players, and that's why Steph Diggs was signed, because they still hope he can be a good player. It's like they did want to try to build this up the right way, and then have it to a situation where then you can take the guy who might be a little bit of a loose cannon, but we're putting him into a room that will, like he has to respect and live up to. Those guys will challenge him if he's not doing that. And here you have, again, the guy that's getting paid the most money in that wide receiver room by a long shot, and he's not here, and he's doing something on a boat, and yeah, I think it's a headache. I think it's added up already.
Mike, there have been some rumblings about town already, and on top of it all, you have Mike Vrabel, who has eliminated previous leaders, good citizens, and quality football players to help establish a new culture. So that leads me to want to ask, do you think there's a chance Steph Diggs could get cut?
Yeah, I don't think it's a high chance. I think there's going to be if there hasn't already been, a come to Jesus conversation, if you will, and just like, hey, tell me what was going on. Tell me I don't have to worry about this again, and like, be here, be what we're paying you to be, because we don't need to do this. We don't want to do this, and you told us we weren't going to have to do this. And I will say one other thing about him too. Like I've talked to people in Buffalo since this came out, but obviously talked to them when they signed him and the whole thing. And having been there myself and covered them a lot, like, he loves all this stuff. He doesn't want to just be a football player. He's into fashion. He loves fame. He loves all the things that come with it, the Met Gala, the whole 9 yards. Like, that's what he sees himself as, like an influencer, not like, the Instagram influencers, but like that he has that sort of clout. And so, then you're wondering about the commitment. Like, again, what are you doing? You're posting these videos on your Instagram, which, by the way, you're filming your story, your comeback from ACL. He's documenting it, the whole thing. So, like, but what are you doing? What's the stuff that's going on that wasn't there, that we don't see in that part? Like, anybody can put those things together. Cam Newton put them together, and everybody got all excited. And then we saw Cam Newton get here, and we're like, he can't throw. So, I probably put it at 15%. But again, I think that conversation with Diggs, is he going to tell Mike the truth? Because Mike will know. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, is he going to tell him, hey, look, I screwed up, man. I screwed up. That's what you thought it was, and I messed up, and I shouldn't have put me in that spot, you guys in that spot, and I apologize 1,000 times over, and you won't have another problem with me. Okay, good. We can move forward. But if he's like, well, it wasn't mine, or no, that wasn't what you thought it was, or that's when you probably run into some more problems.
Mike, you know me well enough. I always look for the silver lining. A lot of negative talk about the offense. We've heard the line isn't good, the wide receivers, Drake Maye. Can you give me a couple nuggets regarding the offense that you've liked through 2 OTA practices? Something good?
Hunter Henry's good. not a newsflash, but like that's their best receiver, man. And I hate the phrase it's not even close, but right now it's not even close. He gets open, and Drake trusts him, and that is that's evident. Like he'll be an important figure once again this year. Someone that you pray that stays healthy and he can be out there for all 17 games if you want to help maximize the level of the offense. And I'll give you another one, which is not an on-field thing. It's more of an off-field thing, at least to this point, because he's been still limited as he recovers from the knee surgery, is Morgan Moses. When we saw after practice 2 weeks ago, he gathered a bunch of the young offensive linemen, including Will Campbell, and they were clearly talking shop. They were in a circle, and they were just we're doing player interviews, and they're off in their own world talking about football, and you can see them working on pass sets and all this stuff. And then this past week, a couple days ago, he's got them again. Only this time he brought over a couple defensive guys, and they were talking again, same sort of thing, like pass rush. And I know that the conversation back and forth, like, well, if I do this, then what do you do? Or if you see me do this, what does that tell you? Like, so it's just he is sort of leading this group and trying to get the Will Campbells. DeMontre Jacobs was in there, Jack Conley, the young kid from BC, the undrafted lineman. Like, so it's clearly like I'm taking the young guys under my wing, and I'm trying to give them as much intel as I can give them. And, I don't know how much football he's got left in the tank. He was decent last year, but as I've mentioned, his body has started to show signs of breaking down. But, like, he's already been a hit in what he's bringing off the field, or in that case, on the field, just in terms of conversation.
Mike Giardi, Boston Sports Journal. Appreciate you joining us on a Friday afternoon. And I like that. It sounds like Morgan Moses is the anti-Diggs. So that's perfect.
Exactly
he
right.
shows up, he's hurt, but he helps the young guys, and he's being a leader. Interesting how that works.
The natural conclusion, yep.
All right, Mike, enjoy the rainy weekend. We'll talk to you next week, hopefully.